to talk to you today about an old friend of mine. His name is Daniel. You see, Daniel was once seen as a hero, as a legend. He's been through the unspeakable, and today, people have pretty much forgotten all about him. I'm speaking, of course, of Sir Daniel Fortescue. I'm the Latino gamer, bringing you my review of MediEvil by Sony for the PlayStation 1. Daniel Fortescue was the knight chosen to lead the armies of Gallowmere against the invading sorcerer Zarek and his zombie army. Daniel shamefully fell in the first moments of combat, leaving the Gallowmere army to fight without him. They were still able to drive off Zarek, but the king wanted to give his people a hero to remember after their difficult victory, so the history books have incorrectly recorded him as the hero of Gallowmere, who died defeating Zarek himself. 100 years later, Zarek returns to Gallowmere and raises a greater undead army. As fate should have it, Dan is also able to reawaken at this time. Thus, an undead Dan sets off to really defeat Zarek this time around and prove himself worthy of the Hall of Heroes. MediEvil is old school 3D adventuring at its best. You move with the D-pad, attack with X, jump with circle, defend with triangle, and use square for your secondary attack. You can collect weapons, shields, gold, and life bottles as you go. When you find gargoyle merchants, you can spend your gold on ammunition or to mend certain weapons. If your health reaches 0, you are taken back to a safe spot and you use a life bottle to wake up. You only hit game over when you have used up all of your life bottles. When you find green life fountains, your life will recover and you can even refill empty life bottles. You start off in Dan's crypt, where you can arm Dan with a small sword, throwing daggers, and a copper shield before heading off into the cemetery. In the cemetery, you fight off zombies as they rise up from the ground. If you ever run out of weapons completely, Dan can still fight by smacking the zombies around with his arm. To move ahead in most levels, you have to find runestones, which act as keys to specific gates. A chalice icon at the top of the screen shows the percentage of how full the Chalice of Souls is. There's a chalice hidden in most levels, and they become increasingly more difficult to find. On top of that, finding them isn't enough. You must defeat enemies until their fallen souls fill the chalice to 100%. Once full, you can collect the chalice and head to the end of the level. If you do, Dan gets to visit the Hall of Heroes, where great heroes spend eternity. On each visit to the hall, Dan can speak with one of the inhabitants and receive a reward, often a useful weapon. MediEvil feels very much like an adventure game. There are a lot of little puzzles to solve and tasks to perform to continue, and they are not always obvious, especially if you want to collect every chalice. You find yourself running back and forth across a level to obtain an item and use it somewhere else. Sometimes you have to move platforms into place or open up paths, mostly because Dan cannot jump very far and he dies instantly in water since skeletons cannot float. Certain sections would be much easier for Spyro to get across. Like any true adventure game, there are bugs and gargoyles along the way to give you hints. There isn't too much else to say about this game. MediEvil is one of the finest experiences the PlayStation 1 has to offer. The music and visuals blend perfectly together for a creepy atmosphere. This is a great game to play alone at night with the lights off, a fine example of old school gameplay, and perfect for an older gamer jaded by the modern flood of uncreative games. The combat is simple yet fun. In fact, this feels a bit like Dead Rising, which makes sense. The puzzles are entertaining and the music keeps you in a dark and dreary mood. If you have any of the PlayStation consoles, I recommend looking for a copy of this game. If you have a PlayStation 3, you can simply download it through PlayStation Network. And if you have a PSP, you can get the 2005 remake MediEvil Resurrection. Thank you for listening and happy Halloween.